Okay, so selecting your stuff to draw, I find that when you're beginning to do a drawing, particularly with this one that has overlapping pieces, that it's best to start in front and work your way back on those. So I'm going to start in front with one of the front tomatoes, the one that's right over here on this one. We'll draw that one first. The nice thing about these is they're mostly round on those, and if you're off a little bit, that's okay. It doesn't have to be the perfect tomato that's here. Yours will be your own perfect tomato. And so let's figure out about where we are in here. And so I'm looking at the height of the tomato on this side, and I'm guessing it looks like it's about maybe a 2/3 of the way up from the page on that sort of thing. So I'm going to say maybe about right here is its height. And so I'm just going to put a little bit of a marker, and I'm going to put a little bit of marker down here. It looks like it's maybe fits into that area. It does go off the page on this side, and then I'm looking here, and it goes in about 2/3, about a third, right, on that one. So I'm going to say that it's about there. So I have these little guides here now as markers to create my tomato. As I look there, it has a little bit of a flat spot, and then it looks like it's rounded, and then it kind of goes off the page. It hides under a leaf right there. Then as this one starts to come down here, it rounds out as well and becomes mostly rounded. Let's puff that part up a little bit more. Maybe not quite that flat. And then it comes down here, hits the bottom, and then starts going up quite a bit. And so we have the imaginary end of the tomato kind of goes off the page on that. And so there's our first little tomato that's in the front. Now the next one I'm going to do is over here. And so I'm looking at the gap in between there. And this size here, that was about a third of the way in. This one's a little bigger on that. And it looks like, as far as its height goes, in comparison with this one, it's about the same height. So I'm going to use that as a guide. So I'm going to say that it's about that tall. And then the bottom, I look at the bottom here, and they're very similar in height here. This little distance here and this little distance here are pretty darn close. And so I'm going to bring that over and say he's about the same height here on that tomato. It also goes off the page. And then we deemed that the inside portion was how much? About like this, which is a little bit more than the 2/3 distance, right? And so I'm just going to guess and say right there. So I have a couple of markers in there so I know where to draw my tomato. And now we know that it's circular, and it's kind of going off the page. Comes down here, hits that portion, comes down here, hits that portion, and then circles up. Get more juice in my pencil. And so now we have the two tomatoes in front. Now I'm going to do the tomatoes first, and then I'm going to come back in and take care of the other stuff. The nice thing about this gesso is it is somewhat erasable. Not completely erasable, but you can get some of your stuff off there. This is probably going to work better. This is a kneaded rubber eraser, getting our extra stuff. Okay, so now I got my two front tomatoes. Now the tomato in the middle right here, I'm looking at the height, and I'm thinking about right here. This is my guess. And he's kind of just a little bit of, it's right kind of centered there like that. And so he has a little bit of a thing going there. Then I'm going to say that it pops out about right here, and then maybe about right here. And so that, down a little lower, right. Okay, so this tomato, if I was to make it round, would be about like that, right? So he comes up about that far. A little bit farther. I'm looking at the height of the tomato here versus the height of the other tomato. So he is a little bit taller. And so that's going to be that guy. All right, what other tomatillos do we have here? We have one right here that's off to the side. It's I'm going to say that the roundness starts about here It's blocked partially by the stem, and that's okay. And then this one is almost directly on top, and so it's going to end about right here. And then its height. Now, when I'm looking at this picture here, you'll notice it's much more rectangular than my picture here. So I'm going to have a little bit of extra room on here. So if I went all the way to the top, I'd have a really tall tomato on that. So this one is only going to come up about this height. And I'm going to work backwards. And these tomatoes are getting smaller, slightly smaller as they get further away. And so that's that one. Looks like there's another tomato right here. It's going to start, let's say, right there. And it's going off the page over here. I'm looking at these two this distance. And it's just a slight up and curve, flattens out. And so that's that tomato. Like I said, if it's not the exact same circle as the tomato we have here, that is entirely okay. All right, and then we have another tomato sitting back over here. It starts, let's say, about right here. I'm looking at this guy right over here. And then I'm saying that this one that's right here starts there, and we know it goes off to the side. It's smaller, and so it's a little bit of a curve up like this for that tomato. Last tomato is this guy right here. We're going to sit here and put in that, and it goes up pretty tall. It goes to almost to the top of my picture frame, but remember my picture frame is not on my drawing frame. And when this one comes over, it starts here, and it looks like it's covered up with stems and stuff, but if I follow that arc down, it's probably landing about right here, is what my guess is. Behind that stem. And so I just need to make sure that it's rounded kind of like that. And so now I have my tomatoes that are on there. They're all overlapping. They're looking pretty good. And that started with the front, moving our way back on that. Let's do, I guess we can do some stemmage on that. The stem, the main stem that we have is, I'm going to draw it in first, and then I'm going to draw the little pieces off of it. And so it comes across here and kind of the whole page. So its starting point is just above this tomato right here. So I'm going to say it's going to start here. And then as it comes across, it's going to end about right here, is what I'm looking for. And so on my merry journey of my tomato stem, it's going to come over this part down here like that. And it's going to dip down and cut across this tomato right here. Once it meets this tomato, it continues down a little bit. But to our great pleasure, it kind of hits right there, but then it kind of shoots back up again. And has a little bit of its leafy part right there. So that's our main stem, the bottom on that one. And so I'm going to draw the top section of it here as it comes across like this. And then it comes here. And then kind of dips down into the leaf part here. Maybe about there. And has some leafy stuff there. Like that. And so that's our main stem going across that way. I'm going to lift up and out a little bit of my extra graphite. Like that. Now, the next main stem is kind of out of focus a little bit, but that's this one coming down here. So it's going to be up at the tippy top here where it leaves. Kind of even with this one, right? And it's going to loop up a little bit. And then it's going to cross and crash behind this tomato right here. Right about where this one connects to it. So let's have this as our end point. Right there. And then this is the bottom. And then it's going to make kind of its way across this tomato. and then it's going to loop down a little bit and disappear behind this one, this guy. And so let's draw the top of that one. Has a little bit of an up there, and then it branches down, comes this way. Fortunately for us, it gets a little fatter right here, and comes down and shoots towards this guy. This one has a little bit of another stem. We're going to deal with that in just a second. So that's our two main stems that we have for our tomatoes. Now we can start to draw maybe the little other stem parts, like that go towards this one. This one is all out of focus as it comes in here, but it does have a little bit of a stem that kind of comes up like this. It's a little thinner, and then it widens out a little as it actually comes up a little taller. Widens out, and then we have some of the stem part. Now I know when you're looking at that, you're like, I'm not sure what's where and who's what on that sort of thing. So let's do it kind of systematically. We know that there's a stem piece is going to come down here and connect in the middle, right? And it's probably going to have a little bit of a rounded part like that. And then there's probably going to be some leaves that are sticking out, and I see a major one that kind of comes like this and maybe curls down like that. So it's probably coming around down like that. And there's probably going to be, if I'm looking at the front here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves in that one, and then maybe 3 or 4 in this one as well. So then it would stand to reason that we probably have 3 or 4 here. So I have one there. I have another one that kind of comes out like this. And they're going to come to a point on the end. And so that one's kind of pointy that way. That's leaf number 2. Back behind here we have a leaf that's coming up like this and kind of comes over like that. And that's leaf number 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we have another leaf that kind of sticks out the bottom like that. So we have 4 leaves that we can deal with on each tomato. And that might make it just a little bit easier to do our drawing when we think about it in those four leaves on those. Okay, this one has a little bit of leaf thing kind of over here. There's maybe another tomato or a little different part here. So let's start with this guy here. And I put that in just a little further than what I wanted on that one, but he has a stem piece that's coming off like this before this little nodule, maybe about here, just right at the edge. And so there's a little stem piece here that branches off of that one, right? And that comes in, and remember it's rounded where it attaches. There's a little bit more of a leafy area right here, and so I'm going to put that in there so I have a starting point. Then I have a leaf that kind of comes up like this, and I may make this a little bit more stylized. It actually kind of goes around to the back side, so it flows around like this, it goes around the back side, and then as it comes out of the back side, we see the pointy part, kind of like that. And so that's that leaf. There's another leaf that kind of comes up. Remember, we got 4 of them, and then it turns back into this guy here. And so there's our 4th leaf. Then our 2nd leaf. Then there's one that kind of comes up this way and is pointy all the way up here. Comes down like that. There's not one right here that I can see. It looks like the other one is behind the stem. That one comes that way. So from behind the stem here, you see just a little bit here, and then it just kind of comes up and has kind of a pointy part right here. That's just behind that stem. Okay, so I got about 4 little stemmy pieces there. This one, there's a little bit of a stem piece that just kind of disappears here. This was once connected to a tomato, but it just kind of goes and disappears off to into Never Never Land here. Let's connect another tomato to this one. This one comes off this way, and the stem kind of comes up, and then it drops down pretty harsh into the tomato, so that it kind of comes up and then drops down pretty harsh right into our tomato here. We know it's kind of a rounded piece like that. Now I know for some of you in visualizing this, like, I don't see it. That's okay. That's okay. That's all right. So this one has kind of some interestingly, there's actually a leaf kind of right in front that kind of comes up like this initially, like that. You see it kind of shooting up, but then it kind of just kind of dies after that, you know, so where we don't really see much of that leaf. It looks like it maybe it goes off here somewhere like that. Then we have on this side, we have a leaf that's coming out this way initially and kind of comes up like that, and it's going to go cross over this guy. And some of these are pretty ragged looking leaves. It's a little drier, and it kind of comes to a point like that. But you can make them a little more lively if you want to. They don't have to be all dead and dried. Then there's back behind this leaf right here. The other leaf is coming out this way. And it curves in and then dies right underneath this one. So there's not, you see maybe a little bit of leaf. Let's put a little bit of leaf coming across there like that. And then back here, there's also, we see a leaf coming out, and it kind of tapers and goes up. I'm just going to make it kind of curl back in like this. So the leaves on this guy kind of curl around this, the place where it connects. So I have 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, 4 here on that one. Let's go back to this leaf. And so this guy, as this one comes down, we have an offshoot that comes a little bit sooner right in here. And it goes up and it gets narrow as it comes up into this piece. And let's go up more and then cross over, and then drop down into this part right here. So this is the stem that's coming off here. Drawings always take a little bit more time. Now this is covered up by the leaves, okay? And so this is, we're going to start out with our rounded part so we know where it is, and then we know that there's a little bit of a bigger part where those leaves start from. So we have one that comes off straight forward, it looks like maybe, and let's say that it's coming out towards us like this, and then ducks down underneath this guy, and so you have just a little pointy part right here. Looks like there's a curled one over here that comes around this way. And ducks in here. And disappears. So there's that leaf. Looks like we have another leaf that comes out this way. Curls around. And then hides underneath that one. And then we have some little craggy leaves, kind of broken jiggity jaggities coming here. Broken jiggity jaggities. A little bit of a leaf coming out like that. This one is going to have more than our regular 4. And then has a little bit of one sticking out here. So we got these little parts sticking out here, right? The 3 little ones there. And then this has, I think, one more little curly cue. up here like that. Now I realized in looking at that, I said, man, I can't see anything. That's one of the disadvantages of doing a just an outline. Sometimes they're harder to see, and so I'm going to use my squeezy eraser here to kind of pull that out a little bit so you can see it a little better. Like that. Hey, we're cruising. The cool part is, let's see, let's do this one back here, because this has a little bit of a piece that comes up like this and then just dives down behind it. It's just part of a stem that goes to a random tomato that is no longer in existence. That was easy. It does look like there's some thicker leaf stuff behind it, maybe underneath it, but I'm just going to ignore that for the moment. I think the last little thing I need to do is address this tomato back here. We do have a little bit of a stem that comes up like this, curves down, and then pops in, and I'm going to say it goes right there. It kind of disappears behind this other tomato right here, right? You have that tomato. And so it's disappearing behind that one. And so that's going to be our connection point there. I'm going to have a little bit of a leaf that goes down and disappears. I'm going to have a little bit of a leaf that kind of comes up like this and disappears on those. There's some extra leaf material like right here that maybe this is coming off that other one. And then let's put a little bit of a leaf here coming off to that side as well. Like I said, there looks like there's some other little curlicues of some leaf things happening back over here. I'm not sure what they are. So I'm just going to stabilize and have one leaf coming down, one leaf coming over to this side, and another leaf coming over to this side. And so that will simplify that for us a little bit better. This one does not have any connection points right here. This one's probably going back in and connecting with it somehow on those. And so that, in essence, is our outline drawing that we've created for our tomatoes on that.